This is what my mother, Harriet Scott, saw before her death. She also had a legal name change to Laïdi Rivera, as she resided in a Jewish nursing home in East Meadow, New York, referred to as Fulton Commons, 60 Merrick Avenue, room 38380A. And now I understand it because I'm there at that crossroad. I'm literally there. Because of all the abuse she was subjected to by James and Kiki living in the basement, 11 Surrey Lane, after my Aunt Cookie dumped her off. They banged on them walls, had those kids do all kinds of shit to her, till she suffered 2 strokes by herself downstairs in that basement at 11 Surrey Lane, where James and Kiki lived. I wasn't there. I had to flee to South Carolina for a little while, and I mean flee from New York after the Metropolitan Hospital experience, trapped on the floor for 8 months. I couldn't take that shit. And thanks to my friend Deacon Hardy, that's how I got out of there. But what happened was, they did some terrible things to her, to where, now, it was the one doing the banging and stuff. It was Karen did to me downstairs in Elmont, in the Jew. Now, after they were successful in inducing a stroke in Harriet Scott, my mother, James, to get her out of all her assets, whatever she had owned, which eventually was $7,000, while she was in a nursing home. He claimed that he discovered her banging her head against the wall, and she had no consciousness when they put the projection on her that she was banging like she was retarded. Meanwhile, they used that banging strategy the whole time I wasn't there. It makes you lose your memory, like my friend Tisa Robinson in the Bronx from Lakeview. She wrote on Facebook, "I'm going to commit suicide." And her best friend Lisa Jenkins and them had to find out what the problem was. She said them Latinos around in that apartment complex kept banging and burglarizing her house in the process. Okay? So, in Harriet's case, what's going on is this, that she was at this crossroads at the hospital when those Caribbean women in the nursing home and the other things they was doing to her caused her to, was like me when I got here, you're like paralyzed. You cannot move. And that's what Bob and Nicole Williams had experienced days before I called 911 when Karen was on top of me downstairs, the Latin woman, with that banging stuff, to where all the water swells up in your body. It's incredible. It backs up, it shuts your kidneys down, because you're not allowed to do anything without a bang. It's supposed to make you look at things a certain way in life, like a training. You understand? So what happened was, when I got here, I was motionless, just like my mother Harriet. I couldn't move because when she was dying, and I was on that state order medicated, the AOT, heavily medicated, especially in like 3 different occasions, they gave me a different strain of medications in Hicksville, New York, C&G. I can tell. One of them was the day I had to deal with my mother's dead body. I was not on a regular strain of medication, okay? But right before that, a week or 2 before that, my mother was like paralyzed, and she couldn't explain to you why. She could no longer move a limb in her body. And I helped the Jamaican woman, Ms. Chambers, to try to hide her abuse. Had to ask me, can you help me move her body with the sheets? That's what made my mother believe I was in on it, psychologically. And she just cried, and we lifted up with the sheets because she could not find anybody from the Justice Department to stop the level of abuse on us African Americans, as though we're not human. And I did some things on my mother's behalf, but the state would write me back with a incorrect name, as though I don't know how to talk to them on the phone, or I sound retarded. Those documents are back at that state housing. that is set up to be switched around and in my death to hide the trace and evidence and will not let me control my own documents, the federal government, and secure housing that belongs to me. This is how they've been transferring around the federal government for over 50 years now. At one point, they needed my father to spearhead the transfers, who thought he caught a break in life with that English tutor in Hempstead, New York. You understand? This is from the old Central Intelligence Agency. Since you would be hard-headed at the Justice Department and want to keep delaying. So what happened was, when my mother knew that if she had agreed to dialysis, right, they were going to further advance the abuse. That's why she said, no, I disagree with medical, anything. You understand it? I'm doing the same thing. And in the process, every time somebody comes to this door who's not from the Justice Department, a family member or friend that I'm familiar with, who I know causes me no harm, my blood starts bubbling up in my stomach for the eruption. That's from years and years of being abducted, abused, and kidnapped by lab coat people who don't want to stop. And they also want to prove their theories and make sure they perfect their method for the next African-American victim, because the Justice Department sat their lazy asses down every step of the fucking way. And every African-American man in civil rights needs to be ashamed of themselves and women for standing aside and letting this bullshit take place. It doesn't serve the community at all well.